It's quite interesting. Okay, good morning, everyone. We are starting our plenary discussion with the leading deans from the leading Western Asian and Russian business schools. And it's nice to host you here. Of course, we would probably all prefer to be in the Governor House where we host our annual conference. And this conference is special in a way because our university is celebrating 100 years in this year in October. And this is the 15th anniversary conference. Thank you very much. Of course, this accelerated digital era allows us to get together in this digital space. And of course, we have to discuss what is the new normal and how we should define what is the best model for education, what is the best model for the labor market, and how to change. The thing is, I actually searched in Oxford Dictionary, what does it mean, the new normal, to be, in line. So it defines the new normal as an event or status or era that previously was unfamiliar or atypical situation that has become standard or usual or expected. So what we are going to define, what are the possible societal and employability consequences for this revolution? And another word, which is the number one in all top search for Google, is lockdown. And that's the lockdown which brings us here in this Zoom and for larger audience in this YouTube window. And of course, it delivered some nasty shock to us business schools and academia and also regulators and some companies. So how to overcome this? And well, has it disrupted our plans? Or is it helpful for our business schools to evolve, and how we are going to change our model to attach it to the new reality? So some believe that this unplanned disruption brings our business school educations down, while others are considering it as a good driver for better changes. And that is why it is a very good company that we have here. We have those who are located in Western Europe right now. It's very early in the morning, sorry about that. We have schools from Asia, India and South Korea, and it's afternoon. And we also have Russian schools here, Moscow, St. Petersburg is joining, and we have companies from Moscow, they're international companies, IBM, and we also have our local chill pipe industrial company. And of course, we have hired EFMD Global, and Amber probably knows better how to connect us all together. So instead of introducing each and every one by one, I would like to offer to get to know our context and also get to know our audience. If you could introduce yourself and just very briefly outline what were the key challenges for your school where you are located in a pandemic crisis of 2020. Who would like to start? Do we start from the west or from the east?
Whatever you prefer.
Or we can start in the middle. Well, we are very well located. We are exactly in the center because Yekaterinburg is located exactly at the border between Europe and Asia. So you have our both hands and heart as well. Well, so probably we go with the, shall we start from Asian side? Hamid, would you like to start? What were the key challenges, if you could briefly outline?
With pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. I'm Hamid Bouchiki, Dean of Sobridge International School of Business. We are a young school. Our students come from around the world, and we had, before COVID-19, we had zero online activity. The fact that our students are international and that we had zero online activity are important. The So the impact, I guess, the impact of COVID-19 on a young school like Sawbridge is probably going to be, or it's probably different from how COVID-19 is impacting other schools. The fact that our students are international, coming mostly from China, Vietnam, Russia also, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Central Asia. This has meant that many of our students are unable to come to Korea, which is a big challenge for us. So our biggest challenge currently is to bring our students to Korea. But in the meantime, we, like everybody, like every other school, we had to make the shift to online. I mean, it was a sudden shift for everyone. The good news is that it has worked. To the point that the course evaluations, just to give you an idea, average course evaluations for the spring semester that ended in June. We are now in the fourth semester, so it's too early to share many insights about the fourth semester. But in the spring semester, what we witnessed a very good evaluation of the classes by the students. That was unexpected. We were all crossing fingers and fearing more negative feedback from the students. In the fourth semester, there's something new which is really challenging us. Here we are in an open forum, and I think we can speak candidly. 2 weeks ago, we switched from online to a partial opening of the campus. So we have few students coming in little by little, and we are operating hybrid classes currently, which means that we put some students who are in the classroom, others are online, and we are finding this hybrid model more challenging to operate than the pure online or the pure in-person model. I would stop here and would be happy to come back, Zana, if you want me to add any further elaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamid. So, and we're going towards West. So I would like to switch to Himanshu.
Yeah, thank you
from
so
Korea
much,
to India.
Zana. Absolutely. So thank you so much. So I'll very quickly recount those blessed days from the midweek of March when the lockdown happened, and then suddenly I had to make a decision. And I made a decision earlier than most of the business schools in India because we were getting a lot of phone calls. IIM Indore was established in 1996. And last year in December, we got the Triple Crown accreditation. And we have 7 flagship programs, and we are the only IIM amongst the old ones who has a 5-year integrated program in management, where we get students right after class 12. And those are relatively younger students as compared to the MBA students, and their parents were getting worried. And therefore, there was a lot of pressure on me to send them back. And we took a decision in the middle of the examination. So we had 3-4 different buckets of challenges. One was the challenge of actually taking classes online for our programs, which was still underway. The second was the challenge of completing the exams, because in our MBA program, we had 2 exams left. That's it. Out of the 10 exams, there were 2 exams left, and we had to finish those exams. The third was the challenge of, we have something called the IPM admission test, where 20,000 students actually apply to our program. So for our regular MBA program, we have 200,000 applicants. And for our 5-year program, we have 20,000 applicants. And for those 20,000 applicants, we had to actually organize an admission test. So that was my third big challenge. And the fourth big challenge was to maintain the relationships with the employers. So we had the summer internships for the first year MBA students, and we had the final placements for the final year students. So I'll very quickly talk about challenges and what we did and the lessons learned. The first challenge was an easier one to manage. So from an in-class mode to an online mode, it took us just a week to get into that, because we already were running fully online executive programs. So that experience that we had from the executive programs came in handy. And therefore, we shifted very quickly. But here comes a caveat. We thought that because we had all the equipment, all the necessary bandwidth on our end, we completely failed to imagine that that was not the case on the side of the students. So therefore, the big challenge came because we had everything, we had the bandwidth, but some of the students lived in far places in India, in some of the villages in India, and they did not have the bandwidth. They had to share the equipment in their families. So you had families, and the families were also working from home. Some of them did not have a big enough home for them to find a quiet room to actually be taking classes in. And therefore, one big lesson that was learned was that just because we have everything in our business school does not mean that education can be imparted. You have to also make sure that the participants also have similar kind of an equipment, and you have to look after their issues. The second exam, which was easily managed because we managed to find good partners. So we managed to find a good partner who allowed us to actually use artificial intelligence proctored examination. But this was for our internal examination. For the other admission test, we actually waited till October. And we conducted it only in October, and therefore we had to plan the contingency as to how do we start the program later and yet eventually finish it on time. So it didn't turn out to be much of a problem because it's a 5-year program, and therefore we have enough buffer in between to actually address that. Now, so far as relationship with the employers was concerned, both for the summer internship and the final placements, what we did was we maintained touch with them. We communicated with them, and we said it's okay if you defer the placements, it's okay if you defer the joining date, so on and so forth. And what we also did was I personally requested all the banks, because most of my students actually come on student loans, and I personally requested all the bank chairpersons to defer the loan repayment schedule. And much to my delight, most of the bank chairpersons agreed, and they have deferred the repayment of the student loan by almost a year. So I think the 2-3 lessons, if I were to very quickly summarize, one is compassion. You have to be compassionate towards your participants. Just like Hamid pointed out, even we are going to go for a hybrid mode. And I know, Hamid, just a couple of days back, I was talking to a bunch of deans in the Global Business School network, and they had similar experiences that perhaps the hybrid mode is the worst of all. The best is in class, the second best is completely online, and the hybrid mode is the worst because we do not have the equipment. We need cameras that follow the faculty, and we need the cameras to be situated in the front so that those who are online can also see. So I think compassion, which means also look at the student side. And the second thing is communication and collaboration. Keep communicating. So I was writing an email to my students every 15 days, telling them what was happening in the campus because they were missing the campus. I was writing them, telling them as to what we were planning to do for them so that they are better prepared. Obviously, the job market is going to get hit. The companies we have still maintained relationship with, they are going to hire, but they're going to hire less number of students. So through communication and collaboration, I think we can actually navigate through this pandemic. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Himanshu. Well, yeah, their communication with students is the whole life for us right now, day and night, 24/7. Dmitry, we are moving towards West, and I think Yekaterinburg is the next one. If you could very briefly outline the key problems as you see for our school.
Thank you, Janna. At first, hello everybody, and I'm really happy to see all of you here participating in our conference, annual conference. It's the 15th one. Yes, Janna. So, and the first that is completely, not completely, but I think 70% online. Maybe about the situation, the context where we are working our school. So what is our school? We are Graduate School of Economics and Management, and we are the part of Ural Federal University, one of the biggest universities in Russia. But our audience, our students, they are I think 80% from the region, the big district, not only our region, but the district including the north in Kazakhstan, etc. And about maybe 20% from abroad, from former USSR countries, from Asia, from Europe. So the shock of the coronavirus, at first it influenced, of course, on the economy, but the economy of our region is specific. So the city is a service city, and the consumer markets, they were affected by the crisis. But nevertheless, the sector that is linked to the industry, and we have a big ring of industrial companies, enterprises around the city, around the region. So the industry wasn't affected so much. Yes, some sectors like aviation, they were affected, but the share is not significant. And the B2B sector, this B2B service also remained in a good condition. That is strange, but it's the common thing for Russian economy. So the industry continued to decrease step by step, but no shocks, except some points. If we talk about the university life, so yes, the total online in the spring, like everywhere, but nevertheless, in September, the universities in Russia, they started to work offline, partially offline. So if you talk about our university, and during almost 2 months, so we worked, I think 50%, yes, Жанна, offline. Now the situation stopped. Now, I think 99%, except some MBA programs, etc., they are all online.
Fully blended.
Yes. Nevertheless, the admission company, it was an interesting fact that during the admission campaign, yes, a small decrease happened, a small decrease of the number of students, but it touched only the low-level programs. So the international programs, the most important for us, for example, the program that Janna is the leader, the IPAS accredited one. So the most popular program, they increased. If we talk about the number of students, number of applicants, and the pricing, etc. So what will be in the future? It's difficult to say because the habits of students changed, and my colleagues mentioned it earlier. In the spring, the situation was, so it was a collapse. Nobody knew what happened. But now our students, I think, so their reaction is mostly positive. So the level of communication online and the habits changed. So I hope it will be so. It will be well. So people are adapted they're going to adapt to the new situation, to the new consequences, and of course it touch a lot our international students because the most part of them they remain abroad. Nevertheless, we hope that sooner or later the borders will be opened. But nevertheless, the situation, so the process of the lectures continues and the life continues. So that's all. Thank you, Janna.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the life is pretty active at the moment, and Well, I also have to say that I have to watch time as well. So I'll be showing the heart of Ural Federal University when we are overusing our time limits. So I have to be a strong moderator. So it's anti-stress as well. So if you are taking too many minutes, then I will be using it. Okay, and we are traveling to Moscow. We probably start from Sergei Misaedov. If you could shortly outline what are the key challenges, just as bullets, because we will then go into details.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much, Jana. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure and honor to speak here. Just to introduce into 3 sentences the university and business school I represent. The university is RENIPA, Russian Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. That's a special university established a decade ago as a merger of several universities which existed for decades. And this is our central management-oriented university, sort of amalgamation, if I can say, of Harvard and Kennedy School of Governance, because we're in between the training of public servants and businessmen. And plus to this, I'm representing the key business school. We have, in fact, 6 business schools on campus. I'm representing the key business school on campus, IBIS Moscow of RENIPA. And once again, it's a pleasure to me to talk here. Plus to that, it was mentioned, I'm president of Russian Association of Business Education. And it's a very big privilege, my dear friends, because I have an opportunity to talk with almost 100 business schools and centers across the country and feel what they are doing, what are their problems, etc. And so I shall try to sum up my observations about the new coming sustainable and normal, just like l'école normale, normal model of business school for the coming decades. First of all, it seems to me that it's a very poor event. If you remember a year ago, Immanuel Wallerstein, the founder of present-day liberal international relations theory, and his theory was the foundation of Washington Consensus. Unfortunately, he passed away. And I am very much unhappy as a start that today in the world, we can see a lot of too much nationalistically stressed trends practically everywhere, but for education. It seems to me that the education today is the major link where the people of the world are still global, and I consider this is what we have to preserve all together. We have to work to keep our students and faculty global, to cooperate, to create synergy. I like very much the slogan of which I heard at many international conferences. To be successful, business school today has to think globally and to act locally. Let us try to train our faculty, staff, and of course students to think globally. And it seems to me that this is the first trend in which we'll have to work actively during the coming time. Second thing, research. Very delicate position. Sort of a frontier in between retail and research-based business schools. Sort of a frontier in between those business schools which are coming to the top of world rankings and those who are working at small segments of national markets. Still, all of us, we know that business recently is very much dissatisfied with too much fundamental research which doesn't have to do anything with real business problems, which under the conditions of VUCA environment are aggravating every year. And it seems to me that we have to think together how to transfer from just fundamental to fundamentally applied research. meaning that we have to reach two tops at one time. We have to keep very high scientific level of research on the one hand, and on the other hand, not to discuss, like in Middle Ages, how many angels can sit at the sharp end of the needle. We shouldn't discuss scholastic problems. We should take the problems from business and work with them in depth. As far as Russian business schools are concerned, I shall try to be even more precise. I have a very deep feeling that if we want to join international community and to increase our export potential, and I consider that for many of you the same problem exists. If we want to increase our export potential, we have to make in-depth research of the peculiarities of Russian management and entrepreneurial model, of its pros and contras. This is where we have to add something to the synergy of the science on management as a whole. We shall be follower of Harvard Business School forever because management, in fact, was predominantly born there. But as far as we are thinking globally and acting locally, on our segment, we can go in depth and to add that to the treasury of international science. Next thing, faculties. Third thing, it seems to me that it's high time to balance to rebalance the quantity of PhD faculties and practitioners. I'm very happy with SASB accreditation, where all the faculties are subdivided into 3 groups, and one of them is faculty practitioners. Today, if we want our programs to be competitive, if we want our students to join the companies and not to stay unemployed, I consider that we have to bring businessmen, entrepreneurs, angels, investors, etc., to our programs. And there, thank you, Jana. I shall finish in 2 minutes. I'm coming to the end. Two more observations. Programs themselves. We have to reshape our programs, working with the leading companies of our countries, with the leading companies of the world. Very often they are too much Humboldt University non-focused. We have focused them to the real interest of the companies. We have to introduce, instead of rotten diploma system where the people rewrite something from internet links, we have to bring students start up defending. This is what, in fact, we made a couple of years ago at our business school and at our university, and up to now we're very happy. The proportion is 50-50. Half of the people want to follow this, I can say, rather scientific track of rewriting other people's knowledge and research results. Half of the people are trying with their startups. We have to balance soft and hard, really to balance business and art. Today, even at the humanitarianly stressed management departments of BBA and master programs, everyone has to know what is Python type of programming. In other case, that they won't be able to work in a digital economy. And finally, online opportunities and internationalization.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to probably switch a little bit because we will continue on these topics in details, because this is just introductory points to outline.
Use the opportunities of this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, because indeed, well, the COVID pandemic crisis outlined some of the strategies that we're using before, but what were the key challenges? And I would like to address this question to Igor Baranov, because you are part of a big ecosystem now, and corporate university is indeed evolving. So whether it was easier for you to move on, or you also had some challenges?
Well, of course we had, Jana, of course. So as Sber University, we design and deliver programs for Sber, which is the largest technology company and financial institution in our country. But we also serve our clients, corporate clients and government clients. So around 20-25% of our activities are related to external clients, as we call them. So to a question, Jana, I would say there were 3 challenges and 3 adjustments we had to make. First challenge, technology. So we had to move very quickly online. So at the start of the year, we had a model when we either delivered blended solutions, which is a combination of online modules, 24/7 online modules, and face-to-face modules, or 24/7 courses online only. So there was almost no synchronous solutions at all. So at the start of April, we had to move very quickly online to synchronous solutions. And what I see is what I really can call a technology revolution inside our university, at least. Looking on how we can actually use different tools, technology tools, in combination to provide the best learning experience. So that was a challenge and adjustment number 1. Number 2, perceptions. So our participants, I cannot call them students, they are participants really. So quite many of them, as well as, by the way, our own people inside university had some prejudices around efficacy of online education. And I think through designing new type of programs online in synchronous mode, using various tools, we will be able to remove this barrier of perception. So people actually learned how to learn online effectively. That was the point. And again, looking by the number of people who successfully finished their programs, it actually doubled in the 3rd quarter compared to the 1st quarter. Looking at the NPS and CSI indexes, we see that we actually deliver very good content. And 3rd challenge and 3rd adjustment is in content, of course. So we are focused on digitalization for quite long enough, and it was not a particular challenge for us to expand this type of programs. But more importantly, there was I would say, a demand for programs focusing on how to make decisions faster, in a more creative way, to adjust to the fast-moving context and new conditions, and in teams. So these are our challenges.
Thank you very much for packing it in a very structured way. I think first we go west with the business schools and then come back to companies. So we move on to Grenoble. Mark, I would like to address you. So how you are coping with this crisis?
Good question. Thank you, Jana. A lesson in managing chaos, I think, is the short answer to that. So the context, obviously, France went into lockdown in mid-March, like everyone else. It was a full lockdown for 2 months. And we've just gone into a hybrid lockdown with courses going back online, universities effectively going all back online, but schools are open, some shops are open, some aren't. It's quite complicated. I think, if anything, back in March, it was the month that preceded the lockdown that was the most difficult. Once we'd gone into lockdown, it's clear the government's shut everything down. And from there, everyone accepts, students accept, faculty accept, not an issue. But the month that preceded that, we're a very international school. We have 7,000 students. 35% are international. We run programs in Paris, in Berlin, with my friend Sergey, in Moscow, in Tbilisi, in Singapore, in Hong Kong. The month that preceded the lockdown, we have all kinds of logistical issues. Should I go? Shouldn't I go? What happens if this? What do we do if this? And in fact, so, people have mentioned VUCA and the uncertainty. Once you've got a definitive answer from the government, actually, it's relatively easy to manage. students accepted going online. Perhaps more difficult for the sort of numerical classes, finance, accounting, students found that more difficult. Whereas when you're in classes where you can talk more, there's more discussion, students generally found that easier. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing, Hameshu mentioned compassion, empathy. The uncertainty brings a lot of worry, so we spend a lot of time having virtual coffees with students, just chatting over Zoom or Skype or Teams, and you get, I did one last week, 2 weeks ago, you get questions like, when is COVID going to end? Okay, my mum wants me to come home at Christmas, should I go? But I mean, the students realize you can't answer that question, but they need a discussion. They just want to ask questions that are relevant to them, so that you can understand their problems. So this issue of compassion, empathy for students, I think it's very important. Obviously, we've made financial provisions for students. That's important as well. Just the last thing, that what's preceded our sort of second shutdown in November is, you're an expert on stakeholder management, Jana, so you'll understand this. We had two very polemical, I guess, stakeholders, between students saying, I paid for a face-to-face course, I want an in-class experience, that's what I want. And students saying, there's no way I'm going into the classrooms, it's dangerous in your country, I'm not coming, there's no way I'm going to come. And how do you manage that? So that was an issue as well, sort of managing the different stakeholders pulling in different directions. And if anything, when the French government announced the second lockdown, it was almost a relief, in that they took the situation out of our hands, and we've gone back to it. Finally, issues on online courses. I think the jury is still out. I think we haven't decided yet. Again, it works for some courses, not for others. Students are accepted at the moment because that's all they have. Whether they will want it when we go back to a normal world, if you like, remains to be seen. And I agree with one of the speakers who said that online is fine, face-to-face is fine. It's this hybrid model that is actually sometimes more difficult to manage.
Okay, thank you very much. And by the way, just when Mark, you were speaking, there was a question from the audience that I got, that whether the price for hybrid model should be changed comparing to offline or online. I think this question will be on and on during our talk. And I think you kind of answer it a little bit, but
I have had that question so many times. I've done so many calls with students, and the issue of pricing and pricing of our courses comes up again and again. There's a discussion about that. The value of a business school program is not just a collection of courses that you have in a classroom. It's the network you create, it's the careers opportunities you get, it's all the the investment that goes into research, accreditation, etc., etc. It's the badge that you have for life. But it's a question that will come back and will come back.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we are moving south in France to Vincent. Is it different from the other part of France? What is your perspective on that? What are the challenges?
Thanks a lot, Jana. So I am Vincent Mangematin. I am Dean of Cage Business School, and we are located, we have at least 4 locations in France. We are, of course, in Marseille, where I am today. We are in Bordeaux. We are in Toulon, very nearby Marseille, and we are, of course, in Paris as well. So For a multi-located business school, the lockdown is just an issue, as you can imagine. I would like to start my talk, just say two things. First, I'm very pleased to be with you. Second, we need a huge humility in what we are saying today. Basically, we know nothing. We don't know what will be the next form of internationalization. We don't know how to really turn the experiential learning online. And we are facing a huge economic crisis. We are facing higher student precarity. And of course, we are facing uncertainty. Regarding CAGE, let's say the digital new world and to turn everything online was not at all an issue. We have many courses online already, and basically we've been able to change from face-to-face to online within a day. So it was our professor able to do it. During the first part of the year, of the academic year, we've been doing co-modal. So we were teaching half group and the other group was online, and it was vice versa the week after. So online is not really the issue, and I guess, and it's part of the answer, the value is not only in the classes which are delivered, the value is not only in the way to deliver the class, the value we are providing to our students is in the promise that we can make to them for a good future, a good job, a job which fits with their expectation, and also the sense of doing something more globally for the humanity. That's the reason why we've been, I don't know if the term in English it's the right one, but we organize godfathering. So we have godfather. Each prof is a godfather of 30 students. Then we are able to organize day-to-day meeting, weekly meeting with small group of students to help them to organize during the COVID regarding, let's say, pedagogic methodologies, how to work together, how to prepare exam, how to read text, etc., etc. We organize godfathering with student association. Each student association is having privileged linkages with a group of students, let's say, to make sure that every student is able to speak with someone every day. Not only having classes, but really speaking to someone every day. And we think it's very important, and it's part of the value we are delivering to the student, and it is part also to our values to be close to the students and to be very careful of what they are doing. And we have a third mechanism, which is godfathering with alumni. All our alumni have been asked to, and we have 70,000 alumni. So that's a large group. And we ask them, and basically 12,000 alumni have been answering, yes, we can do it, to organize this godfathering with students, to make our education as close to the companies as possible. So we organize the lockdown and the confinement and our new model with a lot of tutoring for the student, tutoring through Godfathering. And I guess I can stop here as I see your art.
Okay, thank you very much. It is very important to put some soul in relations with students, but although sometimes digital technologies can't replace normal human relations. And that is why I would like to go backwards to Moscow again and to Global World. And I would like to ask Irina from IBM Corporate Citizenship. So what were their most emergent, maybe some bullets for IBM being both a provider, being a digital company, a software provider, and also working with students as graduates?
Thank you, Jana. It's a pleasure to be a part of this group. It's very nice and very interesting to listen all of you, and also being an alumni of Ural Federal University. It's additional pleasure. So I'm among those who believe that challenges could open new opportunities. And talking about challenges that we observe as IBM, and I'm speaking here not just as a person who is overseeing CSR or corporate social responsibility activities for Russia and CIS countries, but I can speak for the Europe coordinating promotion of new digital platforms for the entire region. I would say that the first key challenge I would like to bring and to point out that before the COVID situation, many of us, and I can speak about public authorities, businesses, universities, often we believe that the platform or technology, if we would have this, that would solve the problem. Build it and they will come. But as we saw, unfortunately, this is not the case. This is not the case, and we may have the platform, but if we don't have thoughtful strategy, how to offer this, how to provide access to students and to professors, to teachers, to mentors to this platform, unfortunately, it's not going to work. So having platform is nice, but not enough. Second challenge that we observed working also with many universities and schools across Europe at the very beginning of pandemic, working in partnership with Cisco company, we tried to provide access to WebEx platform. And what we learned that of course it does require some technical skills to work on this platform on a part of teachers and professors. But what is considerably lacking is approach. We use often traditional teaching approach, which doesn't work anymore. And if we look at the comments here, we see that like questions regarding tuitions, that universities, schools, and colleges have increased costs to have this, but less satisfaction on the part of students. Why this is happening? Because as some of the colleagues just pointed out, we are facing unknown territory. We never did it before, like in such scope and extent. And I think it's a lot to do for business companies to help academic community, to share with academic community experience how we do professional training for our employees. And the last challenge that I would like to share with you, I would call it digital divide. I would be speaking probably just for our country, for Russia. What we observed this summer for some universities in Moscow, that trying to provide better access, as university believed, for high school graduates. They, for example, required such devices that would be extremely expensive, new models, and often students from regions couldn't even afford this. So I think there is one more thing that business community could share with academic community, the importance of diversity and inclusiveness, that it should not be a barrier for students, for teachers, for one to learn, for others to provide this knowledge. Yeah, these platforms, these new methods, these new materials should be accessible for everyone, despite of the fact what sort of models of iPhone or laptops they have. I would stop here.
Thank you very much, Irina. And actually, it's quite interesting that, well, this is indeed a very good stress test for both corporations, business schools, and all their extended stakeholders. And of course, this stress test, in a way, highlighted their unreadiness of platform economics to host business schools, in a way. And it also highlighted some lack of educational quality in some territories and in some schools. And of course, it has outlined some labor market volatility. And just during last comments, we got a question from audience from YouTube. How can you promise good employability if during pandemic corona crisis, we see that there is a degrowth of economics, and how universities are valuing their business education. And I think this question gives us a very good link to the next speaker I would like to address, that Dr. Amber Wigmore Alvarez, CIO from Higher Ed Education, EFMD Global, who knows everything how to connect business schools and digital platforms and employers. And Amber, the floor is yours. Please tell us about digital employability research and tools.
Большое спасибо, Jana. Pleasure to be here. With Russia, country so dear to my heart, I've traveled to many times, visiting schools and teaching and recruiting visits. So always a pleasure. The COVID situation, and just listening to my fellow panelists here today, and we hear the importance of career connections, practitioners in the classroom, experiential learning. The COVID situation, yes, canceled international programs, shift to online learning and teaching, and of course, a shift to digital recruitment. And that's what I want to show here today. But increasingly, we continue to be a more globally connected world, the need to continue to prepare our students, our alumni, upskill them. And that's exactly what we do at Hired. We are the Career Services Initiative of the EFMD, with more than 680 business schools in more than 92 countries around the globe. And what I want to show you all today is what is happening in the HR world, the HR tech revolution, and how are we able to ensure that our talent that have so many aspirations for their careers and very much on a global basis for international mobility, how can we ensure they are future ready for this global workforce? And if we look at a recent study that we just did with EFMD in collaboration with the Graduate Management Admissions Council and Carrington Crisp, we look at what is it that employers are suggesting to be the most valuable for a prospective employee to study. It's digital transformation, technology management, innovation and creativity, and design thinking. So what we're doing is everything we strive to do at Hired EFMD is accelerate the employability, accelerate the matching of the talent, the more than 2 million students studying at our EFMD schools around the globe, with the opportunities wherever they may be in the market. And as I listen to your challenges as business schools, our challenges have been to continue to identify where are those opportunities now. Yes, so many companies downsizing in all over the globe, but where do those opportunities lie? And I'll show you exactly what we've shown. So they're looking for their future employees. They're looking for your talent to embrace the digital transformation in multicultural environments, in multinational environments. And so this as you think about how can we continue to ensure our talent are future ready, this is exactly when we survey our employers, this is where they're focusing right now. So what have we done? Everything, and just as in the academic world, the teaching has shifted online. Of course, recruitment, you'll see that the companies, the organizations are not on your campuses. It will be a long time before they're on your campuses. So Hired having an office in Shanghai, China as well. We started a bit earlier, identifying the need to shift everything virtually. We did our first virtual career fair in March for China, for the Chinese talent studying at our schools around the globe, looking to work in China. Very successful, and that led us to doing a full series of virtual career fairs that your talent, my fellow panelists here, your talent were very active in those fairs in the spring. And we have continued now in the fall. We've done 8 weeks of profile-specific virtual fairs around finance individuals, business intelligence, analytics, management, leadership. This week, we have, as we speak, our virtual fair for international organizations, multilateral organizations. We have the World Bank, OECD, United Nations Development Program, UN Migration, are all actively connecting today with more than 3,000 students and alumni. The trend to digital recruiting is absolutely irreversible, and I will show you why in the analytics and how it's been so effective for everyone. And this is the future. This is what we are now doing at Hired EFMD. We have built the technology ourselves now, and now what we're doing are custom virtual fairs and custom virtual events for the schools in our network, and also for the companies that come to us. IBM, Sberbank, we are very happy to organize specific fairs where the schools will go to you, rather than what's happening now is so many of our companies say, Amber, we have 500 schools want us now to be at their events because it's virtual. They don't need to travel. So now it's the companies are looking for a solution where they can invite a select group of schools or all schools in the network and have their own event. So just let me show you here some quick results from our spring series of virtual fairs. You'll see if you think about career fairs on your campuses, you're probably thinking of 1,000 students maybe participating, and that would even be very good. We had more than 25,000 students at our fairs with more than 800 recruiters, 35,000 applications, which translates to an application rate of 35.3%, which is very high. The ability to welcome talent, not only current students, but also alumni, because you no longer have the geographical constraints. The fact that a company can have at their virtual stand an infinite number of recruiters. So no longer sending 1 or 2 recruiters to an on-campus fair, but they can have 15. We have PepsiCo coming with 15 recruiters, AB InBev, representing different countries around the globe. So basically what's happening now, this is being so successful because it goes hand in hand with the rest of the selection process. Recruiters are receiving more than 250 applications per process. And this is even a low number. World Bank yesterday was citing numbers between 500 to 600 applicants per process. And the applicant tracking system is a software where the entire selection process is centralized. It has a powerful search and sorting feature. And we see here a selection of the most common applicant tracking systems. We are training our talent, our students. It's important that they know as candidates how this works in order to get past that applicant tracking system stage. And we concentrate so much on this now because there's more than 75% of recruiters are using applicant tracking system software to do an initial screening. And if we look at the Fortune 500 companies, it's up to 98% are using applicant tracking systems. So ensuring our talent are aware how applicant tracking systems work. And in this HR tech space, we have seen companies such as AB Integro, VMOC, Novo Resume, CareerSet, JobScan that have created CV optimization platforms where talent are putting in their CVs, scanning it, ensuring that it is optimized for the roles that they're looking to target, avoiding the use of repetitive phrases, making sure that they have the right keywords, the right technical skills, and getting them on to the next stage. We're also starting to see game-based assessments for recruitment. And it was a few years ago in my former role at IE that our president came to me and said, Amber, you have to read this article from the New York Times. And it talked about NAC. And NAC was and is a game-based assessment company for recruitment. And then I thought, this is interesting. This is a great topic to research. And a couple months later, I had a meeting with Goldman Sachs in London, the vice president of talent acquisition. And she said, Amber, we are going to stop posting our vacancies on your career portal. If your students are interested in working at Goldman Sachs, they need to download Pymetrics on their mobile phones, play the games, and if they fit the prototype of our top performers, they will receive the vacancy. So it's reverse engineering. Rather than posting a vacancy and having everyone apply, vacancies are only sent to talent that are a fit. So it's based on breakthrough technology. They're short games that collect 90 cognitive and emotional traits. It's using data science to predict job fit. And based on the National Institute of Health, industry standard trait analysis, so you see the cognitive traits and the emotional traits. There's no faking this. This is part of our genetic DNA, let's say, or our makeup. It's very difficult to train our talent in these aspects. Yes, certain things can be trained, but not so much. And this is what recruiters love about this. At the same time, it helps to expand the talent pool. And there's a tremendous need to increase diversity, especially in STEM-based jobs. So it counteracts the unconscious bias. We tend to hire people that are just like us. Now what's happening is we're seeing a 5 times improvement. If we take a standard selection process and we compare that with a Pymetrics, we're seeing that the qualified applicants goes up to 100% in a process, because if they weren't qualified, they wouldn't receive the vacancy in the first place. So already the recruiters are able to focus only on the quality candidates. It's not wasting anyone's time. The interview rate is going up to 25 to 50%, the hiring rate to 9%. The churn, or the 3-month turnover, is going down to 10 to 20%. In the reach, for those of you who are involved with human resources departments, especially of major multinationals, tend to be quite decentralized. This allows for infinitely scalable reach. And they also structure what they're looking at. Arctic Shores, another fantastic company in this game technology space. And they're looking at psychological characteristics, drive, personal style, cognition, interpersonal style, and thinking style. And once again, it simply allows for more efficiency in a selection process, no human error, designed to identify quality and facilitate the diversity. So yes, you're starting with the same pool of candidates, but you're getting down in the funnel to a stronger final selection. So should be used absolutely in the initial selection process. So what I'm showing you here, it leads us very much to ask the career services and the deans in our schools, do you think the move to digital recruiting is irreversible, and that schools, students, and companies will keep these practices for the future? And you'll see from a roundtable that we did in June, the response was, yes, it's irreversible, 13%. When we did this again in September, it more than doubled to 27%. We're just seeing so much efficiencies, and it's no longer just on the side of the career services that are seeing how their students and alumni are able to engage one-on-one in private chats with the recruiters more direct, but it's the recruiters who are saying, I'm able to connect with thousands of talent around the globe in a matter of hours, rather than going school by school and campus by campus. So this is what we do. At the same time, we work as an extension of the career services teams of our schools around the globe. And for example, I know we may have some talent tuning in today, and we have a whole set of resources, of course, completely complementary to the schools. So access to global opportunities, our monthly masterclass series that we're now having more than 3,000 students and alumni are attending, online assessments. So anything to make our talent more employable and to connect them with those global recruiters that are still very much hiring around the globe. Thank you very much, Jana.
Thank you very much, Amber. This is nice class of Ural Federal University, and some of our students already utilized services of higher ed, and we are happy to have this web page with you. And hopefully more students will use CV clinics. And I think your presentation answered the question how universities can help students in collaboration with such networks to find job in lockdown and in this changing circumstances. I also have a raised hand from Mark Thomas. Mark, your question, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jana, and thank you, Amber. That was a fantastic presentation, very rich, lots of information. I have one question though, and that's perhaps a concern, is you talked about NAC and you talked about Goldman Sachs and you play this game, and I understand that. And then your slide afterwards talked about diversity. And I see an immediate paradox between saying, well, we've got this algorithm that is programmed to take people that are just like us and exactly like us, and they fit exactly into the Goldman Sachs culture, and then saying, but actually we want diversity and we want people to be very, very different. So how do you see companies managing that paradox?
I could not agree with you, Mark, on that. It's something that I have long thought of. Yes. So what Goldman Sachs, just to take an example, because they were one of the pioneers to use game-based assessments for recruitment. And at that time, a few years ago, they had taken 1,000 top performers in one area of the company and another 1,000 in another area. And they based their prototype on that. My feeling has always been, what's not to say that the Goldman prototype could be more than 90% white male? And I believe that we're very much in the infancy of game-based assessments for recruiting, and it will be a matter of time. I very much see a potential for cloning, just like you're citing here. For me, it's important to educate both the talent around this, that the entry into certain organizations, if they're not downloading these, if they're not playing the games, they may not even be considered or contacted. At the same time, I do conduct HR workshops for HR professionals that are considering the use of game-based assessments. Very important that you use this as a first stage of the filter, not at the bottom of the funnel. And extremely important, I've probably demoed or piloted more than 40 different companies' game-based recruitment assessments. I cite the three there that are the most, I would say, reputable, have very much top data scientists working there and are doing everything to ensure that you don't have that cloning effect that I'm mentioning. And especially important is the time invested in working with the company to ensure that they know what goes into the algorithm, that black box, and they're not programming the algorithm in such a way that you're screening out candidates that you should not be screening out. It's an area that I'm passionate about. These companies, and especially Arctic Shores, they're very eager for those schools that are interested in learning more, in companies, always doing pilots, and they've involved me as well in the process, speaking with the companies to ensure that the algorithm is correct. But yes, a lot to be continued to research here.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much for interesting presentation and provoking question, Mark. And by the way, we also have a research, and Dmitry, I would ask Dmitry Telmachov to present this research. It's a different perspective, because Amber was talking about international perspective and gamification and finding the proper jobs for students today. But it is indeed obvious that both organizations and business schools and students should take responsibility for developing and adjusting and adapting for changing reality in the VUCA world. But are we sure that all employers are ready for these new realities? How they see universities and graduates in our Russian reality? Dmitry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jana.
And when you're switching on your presentation, our YouTube audience doesn't see our Zoom chat here. So as Dmitry mentioned, the operational cost didn't decrease, and students have to also understand that we are working on our financial models, and we are introducing a lot of technologies, and we are trying to bring top-notch technologies just to their flats and homes and organize societal benefits for them as well. Okay, the presentation is there, Dmitry.
Yes, Jana, could you see the presentation? Is it okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm, great. Okay, so I would like to share with you some preliminary results of a survey that is going to be completed just now. So it's not yet completed, but the most part of results is now available. And it is not directly linked, this research, this survey to the corona crisis. However, it's linked to a very important topic that touches not only business schools, but also the universities at all. So the focus of this research are highly qualified graduates. So what I mean? Highly qualified. I will talk about it. What we mean talking about highly qualified graduates. But so the sectors that we considered, we considered 4 areas: information technologies, biology, chemistry, energy, and engineering, and also business and economics. So why these areas? So as we maybe as you know, a lot of countries, developed as well as developing countries, they have the kind of lists of critical professions. So critical professions are professions that will define the economic development, the competitiveness of a specific country. So yes, of course, this list always include, for example, additive manufacturing, new materials, robotics, etc. But sometimes, for example, in the list of critical professions in Malaysia, you could find the professions such as truck driver. It is not the best profession for Russia, for example, but nonetheless for Malaysia, for the Malaysia economy, I don't know why, but they put it in the list. And for Russia, we also have this list, the government-based document that also sometimes include some professions that are not really for the future. So we corrected, we changed this list for the purposes of this survey, using some foresights, Russian and international. But nevertheless, the most part of these professions, they were grouped in 4 groups that I mentioned. So manufacturing and engineering, informational technologies, energy, and the fourth one, biology and chemistry. And we added also business and economics. We understand well that business and economics sometimes, especially if we talk about the first graduation, it is not the highly qualified field. But if we talk about master students, about those that are about adults, so that is. And now I would like, yes, and the second important part, so about the respondents. The respondents were HR, the heads of HR in 500 companies, Russian companies. So 90% of them were larger medium enterprises. And about 100, so about 20% were companies from high-tech sector. Why only 20%? So easy to understand. So we were interested in asking traditional companies who hire, for example, I don't know, specialists in big data or in additive manufacturing, etc., etc. So in the sample, we could find really prominent companies like Russian copy company, Rosatom divisions, etc. The top service and finance company like Big Four, like Sberbank IST, etc. And of course, IT and technological startups. And now some conclusions, some results of this survey. So the first and interesting thing is that almost 50% of the respondents, they don't pay attention to the university the employees graduated. So that is interesting. And about 40% they do not have a choice. They could evaluate these employees, but they really do not have a choice in their local region. Nevertheless, about 15% they have a choice and they employ people from other regions. It is partly related to a low level of mobility in Russia, but that is strange if we talk about high qualified people who are normally well paid and etc. and more mobile if we talk about geography. So what is also interesting, the main consideration when choosing new employee from this sphere, one of these five spheres, 5 sectors. So you could see that 3 most important things, if you talk about the whole sample, that is work experience in a specific field, hard skills, and the level of education. Soft skills, overall work experience, diploma, and other things like sustainability, etc., are much less important, except business education. So in business education, you could see the dark blue column. So hard skills are also very important, but soft skills, you could see, are much more important than in the rest of the sample. So, and what else? The level of satisfaction. So if we talk about the satisfaction, you could see that hard skills are considered as very important, but at the same time, for example, in IT, you could see it. So in IT, the companies are less satisfied about the hard skills. Yes, of course. So we asked about digital skills. We understand the digital skills for IT, that is the part of you must have. But if you talk about real hard skills in IT, the companies in Russia are much less satisfied about it. And the same, for example, for business and economics. Hard skills are important, but much less, the companies are much less satisfied about it. If you talk about Russian regions, you could see that the top 5 regions with the most, so the highest level of satisfaction, overall satisfaction, are Sverdlovsk, our region, Tyumen, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Tatarstan. So the level of satisfaction is really high. At the same time, and we understand why, because the really strong universities are placed in. But we have regions with really strong and prominent universities, like, for example, Rostov, or Volgograd is also a good region, with a really low level of satisfaction about high qualified employees. But the demand, for example, in Volgograd Oblast is very high. So the industry is strong, and have a lot of industrial companies in Volgograd and Rostov. So that is also a point of area of improvement. And the last idea is, the last point is, so you could see on the right side of the slide the average satisfaction. So the high-tech companies, you remember, it's about 20% of the sample, are less satisfied about the skills, the overall skills of employees than the overall sample. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dmitry. Very contradictory results. So we see that high-tech companies are never satisfied with graduates. And obviously, that probably means that we have to work more to adapt our graduates to their market. And maybe we have to convince our corporate partners to help us to adjust new programs for the market. And actually from the YouTube, we have such a question that when all the universities face the challenges with academic mobility and their weakening partnerships, what is necessary for development of new programs and research projects, how to overcome these challenges. And maybe you will have some comments on that. And when we go on our plan, maybe you add up the answer to this question. Well, I also looked up the Forbes Education had this survey for 11 countries covering top business schools, including Harvard, INSEAD, IMD, and others. And they actually revealed that more than 52% of top schools are not ready to switch to online mode, not only because they don't have digital platforms, but also because of the perception and readiness of their participants, and also the program outlines. And in this strategic setting, for a new model of education, I would like to ask Hamid Bouchiki in this strategic setting. Is it the same for career? You haven't moved all their executive programs and master programs online, or is it working? What's the strategy for the next development?
Thank you, Jana. Thank you very much. Well, the topic of this panel is searching for the new normal. And I fully agree with Vincent, who said earlier that it's too early. It's too early to say whether we are in a new normal and what is the new normal. For now, I think we are in the eye of the storm, and the jury is still out. Many of us, including myself, we still hope for a return to the old normal. And when we may perhaps never go back to the new normal, and the old normal, and I think we will never go back to the old normal. So what's happening, at least where I am, I see our reaction to COVID-19 as twofold. There's a first phase that I call coping, and a second phase that I call strategizing. In the spring, we were clearly in coping, we were clearly in firefighting, we were switching online, we were dealing with a number of logistical issues, and so on and so forth. Now in the fall, we are beginning to strategize. And what we see when you say strategizing, by this I mean that we are beginning to perceive the new opportunities and beginning to act on the new opportunities. I see opportunities for us where we are. I see them at two levels. On the educational side, we now have decided that we will have, from now on, we will have a full online bachelor degree. From next spring, any student who would prefer to study fully online will be able to take the full online bachelor degree online. We will certainly have less electives. We'll have less electives. The business model will be slightly different. We are still dealing with pricing issues. We haven't yet reached clarity on pricing issues, but the decision to have one online track is there. We will also have an online MBA track. And we are also realizing that we can source courses from other institutions. We can hire adjunct professors who are not in Korea and who could teach in our programs. These are all new opportunities. We are now also designing a joint course with another university in Europe. It will be a joint online course. So on the educational side, I think that the digital world is affording us new opportunities. As I said in my first statement, we are a young school. We are only 12 years old, and we had zero online presence, zero online footprint for COVID-19. Other schools are more advanced than we are, and my former school in France is more advanced, but here we are learning. The second area is about career services, and fits nicely with what with Amber's presentation. We are now, we realize we see the emergence of something that is called online internship. This is a wholly new thing, at least for us, the idea of online internship. And this is a reaction to COVID-19. To cope with the situation, we had to find opportunities for our students to do work for companies remotely. Well, now we realize it's an opportunity. So what we are doing, as of today, we are reaching out to hundreds of companies across the world, saying, well, would you have some opportunities, online internship opportunities? So now we have the first online internship opportunities we have in Singapore, Israel, Vietnam, Russia. We have 4 or 5 countries now. We have companies from 4 or 5 countries that are offering online internship opportunities. Germany, I forgot, offering online internship opportunities to our students. And now what our challenge is to create a kind of template. We are doing ad hoc, We are working ad hoc on these opportunities. The challenge for us is to create, the kind of crystallize a new online internship model. This is also why I'm very interested in what Amber was saying. I'm challenging very seriously. I'm challenging our career services team to go digital. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamid. Indeed, it's quite interesting that you referred that it's not enough just to modify learning mode, and that is why I want to address Vincent again, how you cope with the changing environment and catch, because you've mentioned that you have their God's power to help you. What else you are utilizing in the new strategic model?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, and it's very interesting to see the diversity of experience and how we try to let's say to train our learners to be successful. Basically, I would like to emphasize two elements. The first element with the student, basically with the student. Let's say the basic capabilities and competencies the students have to learn don't change. So we are still teaching strategy, we are still teaching accountability, we are still teaching cost control, blah, 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 etc. What is really changing, I guess, and the survey we had in France and in Europe are calling our attention on soft skills. Soft skills, mostly about resilience, commitment, and the notion of excellence is changing. We are all trying to have excellent students and to teach them to be better, to accompany them in this process, to be excellent in a certain way. Before the COVID, there's a sort of taken for granted idea that being excellent was to be best in class. During this COVID period, what we see, and what we see especially with the students who are entering in the job market, is that resilience, adaptability, and commitment are the main elements for them to find the job they want. So we are trying to, let's say, to over value in our God-favoring process this soft skills learning. It means that for our faculty, it is really challenging. As all business schools worldwide, we have a very good faculty. They are doing excellent research. But for the moment, what we need is adaptation. We need people with a very broad view who are able to speak with students, with companies, and who are able to adapt their teaching in this kind of fine-tuning challenges to accompany learners into success. The second element I would like to emphasize for the faculty is really the ability to have long-range projects. And this is maybe the case for researchers. They know and that research takes a long time, basically from the beginning to research for the publication of the first good paper. It takes 5 to 6 years, so it's very long, long processes, and we have to, when uncertainty is around, we need people to accompany our students and our faculty to have this kind of medium range, long range project to be able to have an objective and to see, let's say, the light at the end of the tunnel. So what we try to do, it's also through research, training students and training some of our faculty to be able to run long-term projects. And basically soft skills, ability to learn to run long-term project is what we try to do with high adaptability, of course. And this is the way our competencies are moving.
Okay, thank you.
I try to make it short.
Thank you very much. And I would like, it's interesting that in different regions, their applicability, I would call it, for soft skills and hard skills is really varying. And we can't say that it's the same percentage needed. And that is why I would like to ask Sergei Mesaedov again, because how to ensure that this chosen model, whether you prefer soft skills or hard skills, how to ensure its sustainable growth?
It is not the question, what do I prefer? Being trained as humanitarian university, for sure, personally, I prefer soft skills. The problem is that business schools are very much dependent on the opinion of the leading companies of the country, of the world. And recently, and I'm very happy about that, also on the opinion of medium-sized and big business, so-called hidden champions of the 21st century. And when we start speaking with those people, they want to get a balanced, educated grads. In fact, within the structure of my business school, I have a pretty special department, the Department of International Relations. We added there via minors business disciplines, about 25% of business disciplines, just to balance its role within the business school. And the general perception was to exchange it between business and international relations by minors and to create synergy of business and art. Still, the enrollment demand for this department is enormous. And this year was above any expectations, even under the pandemic. We know that when the students are coming to the fourth year of bachelor program, they face certain initial problems with getting proper jobs, because people ask them, and what is your profession? What are your competencies? But for general knowledge of what is happening in the world, but for general knowledge of how to negotiate, but for fantastic knowledge of foreign languages, but for ability to work with the computers. Everyone, plus minus today has those abilities in depth or at the surface. Do you know Python programming method? Do you have an idea about hard skills? Do you understand how to work with big data? Maybe not to develop algorithms, but at least to use them. And we found out that if we would like our grads to find proper jobs and career, we have to supply them with real hard skills connected with digital transformation of ecosystem of our planet and of our country. We have to balance the skills of humanitarian knowledge, at least with the fundamentals of programming, fundamentals of mathematics, etc. And so we made a decision step by step to start introducing that even within this department. We have certain problems with our national standards, etc., that we have the right to introduce our standards, which are above. We are learning, but it seems to me that as 10 years ago, German Gref told me, we need today the grads with balanced right and left part of their brain, with both logic and art way of thinking, those who understand hard and soft skills. And it seems to me that business schools, whether they like it or not, they have to transform their programs in this direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergey. That's very interesting. And by the way, we have questions from YouTube very much in line. They're actually asking, who will add to the new normal model? First, managerial teams of universities and business schools, professors, or students? And it is indeed a very hot topic. Who is most adaptable? Because many universities adjusted to digital mode. Many universities became digital in their programs and portfolio programs. But whether professors and students are ready to fit into this ecosystem, that's one of the questions. And I would like to pass these questions to Daniil Sandler, who actually joined us a little bit later, our first vice rector for Ural Federal University, the key person in finance and strategy. So Daniil, I would like to ask you, what are the competences needed and who needs to integrate more managerial teams, professors, students, who was ready, who was not? What is your opinion?
Thank you, Жанна. I am really impressed by two ideas from Sergey about balance between digital, soft and hard skills, and another idea about godfathering. And I think that just now this area we should be godfather to each other, and from our subordinates, for our colleagues, for our bosses too. We should be godfather for our bosses. Why not? Because we should care about them. So I think that we win if we could work with different people, with old, ill people, with young and not skilled young people too. We should work with different people. And this skill is not simple. And I think that godfathering is a good term for this situation. We will be godfathers for each other. I think so. That's all.
Sorry, it seems to me that English equivalent for godfathering is mentoring, and the existence of mentors within the team of our faculties is very, very important, and their quantity is growing recently. Thank you.
But Sergey, but I think that for Russian mentality, godfathering is better than mentoring. More clear.
If you remember, to make the bones in the slang of godfather meant to kill a people. It's not a very good equivalent, not a very good word for the global world.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then the answer for the audience would be that they will get a godfather or a mentor depending on their faculty and depending on the readiness of their faculty and their hard or soft orientation. But on the other hand, I would like to address the competences factor, because according to OECD research, about
Jana,
90...
if I may, sorry to interrupt, but I guess this is not only faculty. We have to be tutors, mentors, or godfather, whatever. This is very important to have, especially during this period, a different set of godfathers with different capabilities and also different ways to address with the student. Because what we miss the most when we are confined, when there's a lockdown, is social interaction in different ways. And social interaction is not only with your professor, is with your peers, it's also with alumni, it's with the society at large, with friends, etc. So I guess what we have to provide to our students, it's really this kind of diversity. We have to rebuild a small world for them, to socialize them, because usually they are not socialized in their local environment because they are not coming from the same town or the same region. So this is this kind of, I just re-insist, sorry for that, but this is this kind of environment which is very important.
Yeah, well, thank you for this comment. But, you know, as I started to say, in some part of words, the accessibility of mobile connection and also availability of computers in houses is quite low. So it in Western Europe, up to 95%, and in Indonesia, in some Asian countries, only 30% of students have computer at home and internet at home. And under these circumstances, how can we integrate those students and socialize them and be business mentors, even we invite wider ecosystem, and how we make business education not only the choice, the privileged choice. And I would like to address with this question to Igor Baranov, how companies and how business schools could actually justify the market for such a model when more people have accessibility to online learning and to develop their soft skills, and whether it depends on the providers or the audience.
Well, I guess from both parties, obviously. Accessibility issue is less and less an issue, I would say, compared to the managerial challenges and challenges in perception that already been discussed here. Like to a question, Jeanne, for whom it is harder to adjust, management teams, professors, or participants / students? I can hardly tell you, actually. For students, easy to think that they're younger, probably they're easy to adapt to a new situation. Not necessarily, because what some of them, actually quite many of them are missing is not accessibility, but ability to learn. You know, they probably don't know how they miss this part, learning to learn in their life on their own, managing their own pace. With all proper time management, prioritization of what they're learning, and so on and so forth. So it's a real challenge to them. It's a challenge to professors or instructors, as in the case of the corporate education, because if you're delivering online, you're actually competing with the stuff which is already online. And if you just, you know, trying to say very simple things that can be easily found in the internet, you know, all people just see that there is not much to say, you know, in your class. There is no real value you actually add to what can be found without you as a professor and instructor in the internet. And for management teams, either corporate universities or traditional universities, it's also a big challenge. It's a challenge in terms of finding a right balance between different professions. So in traditional universities, the focus was, of course, on faculty, research producing faculty mostly. But we see that we need a balance between those who produce new content and new research and those who can support them with learning technologies, who can actually probably monitor what's going on in the educational space and provide their findings and support to professors. So this role of people engaged in learning technologies in developing a right learning design for solutions, for learning solutions, is of course very important nowadays. And finally, for management teams, it's also a question, because of the new balance between online and offline learning is a part of the new normal. What kind of experience we actually create in face-to-face offline interaction on campus? Yeah, interaction is very important. I totally agree with a colleague who mentioned that before. Interaction with faculty, interaction between students, social life that actually develops your network and your social skills. And then we should ask ourselves a question: do we actually develop all the skills? Do we provide enough opportunities on campus for this kind of stuff? In quite many universities, including Russian universities, unfortunately, students probably would pay more to stay out of dormitories and very poor campuses with very limited interaction outside of their own study group. So it's a challenge for management team as well.
Thank you very much. Well, there are lots of challenges to overcome, but actually, it's the question that I also wanted in terms of these challenges to overcome, you know, a balance between Stila and Haribda to address to Himanshu, and to see how you are leveraging risks of technical dropout when mastering soft skills, and how you're working on professor-student communication as a key method to study, and whether it's developing competences and whether it's beats these challenges or creates new one for the new normal.
Thanks, Anna. I think it's a combination of a whole lot of things that we are talking about here, because like Sergi said, that we are talking about the skills that would be required. So let's make no mistake, irrespective of whether the corona pandemic had happened or not, we were moving towards a post-fourth industrial revolution world, where the kind of skill sets which would be required were completely different from the kind of skill sets that we were imparting in the business schools. And we have had a meeting of the deans by AMBA, the accreditation agency, and subsequently even by EQUIS. And one of the things that came through both was that there were some 7 to 8 skill sets that we identified, which we thought are going to be the skill sets for the future. COVID has merely accelerated our transition from these skill sets to those. So for example, skills like analytics, it's going to be extremely important for complex decision making. You need to understand big data analytics. You may not need to know coding, but you need to know how to make sense of all of that. And then you have collaboration. And now what COVID has added is collaboration and also virtual collaboration. How can teams collaborate virtually? You have negotiations, you have artificial intelligence and machine learning. And therefore, what we are doing, at least at IIM Indore, is that we are creating a lot of certificate and postgraduate certificate programs for our executive participants. And for our regular flagship participants, which means our MBA, or whether it's our 1-year full-time MBA or whether it's our 2-year full-time MBA, what we are doing is that apart from the courses, which are the traditional courses that come from the functional areas of HR, marketing, strategy, etc., we are stacking them up with certifications. So my MBA students, apart from doing the regular courses, as was envisaged at the beginning of the academic year, will also get a certification in business analytics. They will get a certification in financial analytics. They will get a certification in HR analytics, and that is going to stack up, make them more employable, and in fact, make them more skilled to be ready for the post-fourth industrial revolution world. So that is one part. Another great opportunity, although that was not the question that you asked, was an opportunity for all of us to get into the collaborative modes. For example, currently one of the US universities is talking to me, and they said that, look, we have lots of students enrolled from India, and they want a campus experience. Would it be possible for you to host those students for at least 3 months in your campus? And we will acknowledge your credits as equal to our credits. And therefore, in this meeting itself, I would like to extend this invitation, and I would like to also put this out as a thought that maybe if you have students from India, maybe an institution in India can actually host some of your students. Likewise, if we have students from some other countries, maybe we should reach out to our partner institutions there, figure out some method of credit transfer and say, hey, can you host the students who are enrolled in my business school in your school for some time? That will also help us in optimizing our resources, because even my own Indian students have not yet come back to the campus. And I think it opens up a completely different set of opportunity. Third and the final thing, and I'll leave with that, is that we need to also collaborate with institutions within the country. We have been looking at institutions which were outside the country. For example, we have an Indian Institute of Technology, which is again a national institute of eminence, but in science and technology and engineering. So what we are doing now, we are launching joint programs with them. So they take care of the engineering part, of the technology part, of machine learning, analytics, etc. And we take care of how all of that learning can be actually implemented in managerial solutions. So by joining hands with engineering colleges, I think management institutions can really build value-added programs, both for students as well as for the executives. Back to you, Zana.
Thank you very much. Interdisciplinary approach is indeed will be a basement for the future development. And of course, the next speaker would need to be Irina Gart from IBM as a provider for foundation for these technologies and integration. Irina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would briefly try to outline points that I prepared for today's session. So I would start that with the fact that according to LinkedIn research, as for today, talking about the business community, 81% of senior executives believe that talent is a #1 priority for them. And failure to attract and retain talent in the company is a #1 issue in minds of many international CEOs. It's even more important than competition or disruptive nature of technology. And talking about the career that your students would be envisioning today, career today have more velocity and volatility, as some of us already said, and it's not surprisingly that around 35 maybe % of corporations feel that students who coming after graduation to the companies are well prepared, yeah, and the rest 65 cannot admit this. What else I can say? That enabling people, especially most vulnerable people, helping them to build skills. All this is not just happening, yeah, when they are graduating, when they're university, when they're coming out of them. And in this situation, business community and government, of course, working in a partnership, they have a critical role, understanding that upfront investments in the field of education, transformation of education, digital transformation, lead to long-term economic and social benefits. What else may be said? That our schools, colleges, and universities today are mostly being created in a world where people had 1 or maybe 2 careers during their life. And basically the challenge, as I already mentioned, is that many traditional learning approaches are designed, optimized, scaled for situations that we had in the past. But again, we are envisioning or we living in a situation of uncertainty when we have to come up with new methods, new tools, new techniques to prepare our students. Talking about multimodal learning, or as some of us said, hybrid learning approach. Of course, we do as IT companies hear a lot of concerns that now online learning will replace offline, and that's horrible, and we shouldn't let this happen. But again, it's not just, I think, IBM position. It's a position of all IT vendors, all IT companies, that online should not replace offline. Online has a strong potential to extend this knowledge, yeah, to make, as one of us said, our student and professors community global. It's very important. And based on the experience that we have had for many years, being a leader in a field of professional education and in university relations, during this pandemic situation, we came up with a number of principles that we believe could be useful both for educators community and for business community that is trying to help universities. The first one, it's about design thinking. Design thinking, which is a client-centric approach that the learner is always should be in the center. When we're designing platform, when we're designing program, when we're designing professional upskilling workshops for our professors, we should be based on their needs, their specificity, and their understanding. I already mentioned at the very beginning about platform, but now would like to emphasize that IBM is a big fan of what we call open platform. Openness, it's the chance to accelerate adoption. An open architecture allows individual applications or services to become combined into new ideas rather than being locked into one vendor's way of doing things. And actually it's a big challenge for business community because majority of us used to offer some programs and to say that, well, we performed well, it's the best CSR program and so on and so on. And now the pandemic is totally changing this culture, making us to cooperate one with another. What else can be said? That ongoing professional development for those who teach. I already also mentioned this, that we need to provide such an opportunity. Otherwise, we will have technology, platforms, and everything, but professors, instructors, mentors, godfathers who are incapable to do this. And as an example of such cooperation, I would like to mention the Open Digital Platform created this spring after the pandemic started, called Open PTech. Will not be saying what sort of hard skill courses it provides in addition to soft skill courses. The beauty of this platform that it allows students to choose their own pathway, what courses they would like to take. It also has functional for professors to incorporate this in their learning courses. And as a result of studying on this platform, every student may obtain digital credential, which is extremely valuable piece for any company when they are going to work after the graduation. And the last probably piece, it was, I think, a brilliant attempt to bring together many different vendors who would be creating these courses in cybersecurity, AI, design thinking, and so on and so on. So we also trying to work, we're trying to help, and I think the cooperation, proper cooperation, would be the way to address all these challenges that we already mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irina. Hopefully our students will enjoy the platform and will develop, and other students from schools all over the world to develop their hard skills. And of course, as we are moving to the end, we are running slightly late. I would like to ask Mark Thomas to share with us their key points on competences needed and also the new normality, whether it's still normality or the future or move forward or backwards. Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and again, thank you, Jana and Dimitri, for this really interesting discussion. And it's fascinating seeing from different parts of the world. I think there's a lot of noise out there at the moment, and we're all very unsure about what's going to happen in the future. The idea that everything will go online, I don't think any of us are convinced of that. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, wrote in the 4th century BC that man is a political animal and we're a social animal. We like being together, we like interaction. And even on a public holiday in France at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're prepared to get up to talk to our colleagues across the world. So, I don't think this idea that, everything will go online, we actually like that classroom experience. I think there's an opportunity for universities to rethink their value proposition. Why does people pay for their courses, and what are they needing? What are we bringing to students? Companies are sometimes quite ambiguous about what they say. We have to be careful about that. In Dimitri's presentation, there's always this hard skills, soft skills. Companies often say they want soft skills, but then they employ on hard skills. They then promote on soft skills. So we have to be very careful about that. And also in Dimitri's presentation, something which is very interesting was companies saying only 26% of companies said they're interested in the ranking of the university. And yet we know that companies all have their lists of which universities they recruit in. So the idea that it's not important to them, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Amber's presentation is perhaps a threat and an opportunity. I talked about the threat, but the opportunity is that maybe we might have a double-blind process for recruiting candidates in the future, and it's not just the Stanford and Yale people that will get recruited, but somebody who might come from Oklahoma Community College that does very well on the recruitment process. So, there may be shakeups there. But I think we will adapt to this model. I think we will integrate it more. I'm actually quite optimistic for the future. The idea that academics are, totally incapable of change, I don't believe that. Most of us told our faculty from one day to the next, right, you're going online now, change, and they did it. They adapted. So faced with that situation, I think we've all managed it. So I remain pretty optimistic for the future.
Thank you very much, Mark. Well, I always love your optimistic approach to life and education, and we try to follow. And before we close up our very interesting, very, engaging topic, so we could talk the whole day about this, but unfortunately we have our time limits. Natalia Sokolova would like to have a brief comment as a business representative, and then I would like Amber to help me to close up and resolve this session. Yeah, Natalia, if you speak Russian, you press Russian.
Здравствуйте, скажите, слышно ли меня? Hello, can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to take part in this conference along with such very important people from all around the world. And I'd like to congratulate on my behalf and on behalf of my company, the Europe Federal University with its 100th anniversary. And it's great that this conference today has taken place in spite of all limitations, constraints in our country, in the world. And as a company representative, I represent a metallurgical company. We make steel pipes for oil and gas pipelines, international ones, including the largest ones in the world. What's happening in our company in the new context? First of all, because we are a science-intensive company, first of all, we need engineers and highly qualified workers. What they need as graduates? Of course, they need to have gained practice. Our company, in this situation of COVID-19, hasn't stopped production, and we've spent a lot of money and effort in order to keep the favorable situation with regard to staff health and safety. A lot of checks and audits have taken place, and unfortunately we have had to limit placements for students and visits to our production facilities by all people from outside. For those people who could have an internship with us online. And we've kept it. And as for the Euro Federal University, MESIT in Moscow, the Southern Euro Federal University, etc., we have held roundtables with them online, like this conference. We told them about our production facilities, about our businesses in the holding company, answered their questions. And this year, together with the universities, we have decided that we'll keep doing such internships because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do this. And the second thing that I'd like to mention is placements. We've held placements for students since 2016, including for students from other countries. We have such vacancies, but this year, this side of work has suffered because we cannot distract our highly qualified workers and experts for training young workers, because the situation is really critical economically and epidemiologically. That is why we cannot stop training engineers for our company. We cannot stop recruiting higher science-intensive staff. What have we done? We've set up corporate groups, academic groups, from our current staff who have shown good potential, and we've decided that they are ready for professional development. We've set up such corporate professional development groups for doing this with the participation of our partner universities. I think these are our main decisions that we have made since the spring this year, when the pandemic began in our country. And I think this is our main experience that we have gained over this period. I mean, virtual placements and professional developments with the programs, so with the participation of our partner universities and programs.
Okay, thank you very much. It's always nice to see how our companies from real economic sector are dealing with corona crisis and choosing their partnership with the universities. And of course, the key issues that we have outlined today, that indeed the digital platform economics for business schools is a key solution, but their hybrid model, which might be the future for many of business school, is the most challenging one. And of course, we can't be fooled for only soft skills development, and hard skills should be a fundamental thing on top with development for societal development, and also even humanitarian sector would need to utilize better impact on digital world and AI. And of course, virtual employability will stay with us for the new normal. And that's the whole foundation for new programs to build for students who will be working at least 4 years, in 4 years in the future. It should be very important to get them ready. I would like to give a floor for Amber for concluding remarks. And when you are switching on, Amber, I also remind that in our ROC events, in our application for this conference, there is a survey for key competencies that will be needed for graduates in 4 or 6 years. So you could vote for that, and we will know the results after the conference. Amber, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. And just quick conclusions. And we had a great question earlier from the audience about who is driving this and who will be more adaptable. Is it the management teams? Are they the students? And we have to remember that, of course, it's also the labor market and the employers that will be driving the redesign of programs to ensure that our talent is employable. And we haven't really heard much today directly from a talent perspective. let's remember that our talent right now is very much at a crossroads, deciding what should I do now with my life? Do I continue my education, or do I seek a micro virtual internship? And as institutions working with alumni and working with our corporate partners to facilitate valuable experiential learning. It's more than half of recruiters, the majority of recruiters agree that business schools need to facilitate and introduce more opportunities for experiential learning. And what I would say here, one thing that I find that we do not do enough, and when I speak with the employers, they say, invite us into the classroom. Invite us in and let's get that employer voice. Yes, we talk about, Sergey mentioned practitioners, very important in our institutions. But also let's bring in the employer voice into the classroom. I find that we don't ask them enough, and they are so eager to get in there and hear from the talent perspective as well. That would be my conclusion, Jana. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure listening to everyone today and learning so much from you all.
Thank you very much, dear speakers. We're running a little bit late, but I think it was worth it because we got to know different perspectives from the West, from the middle between the West and the East, and also from Asia. And it still seems to be not the same. And it's not about technologies, but it's about adaptability and also different level of perception in different markets. So as we are still working on the new normal global education market, then we probably need to find some key features that we need to develop. And that is why it will also help our academic mobility and also our internationalization strategies and development of extra abilities of students and digital skills of professors, and maybe the most important, the mindset for future new normal at different levels of university and business schools management. Dear colleagues, if anyone has any comment before we close the session, I would be happy to give you the word for closing remark.
Just bravo for the session.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good session. Very good discussion.
It's great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to see all of you. Merci beaucoup et bonne santé.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
And here is our Ural Federal Heart for you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Take care.
Likewise, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.